This hangout is live. Oh crap! Yeah, so I just lost a monitor, and I don't know why.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, so it just went
good.
out, but no power. So hey, everybody, it's September. Wow, it's September already, dude. It's like September, back to school and all this other crap. It's the SNEWS.
Yeah.
I am Tony Solo. Nice to see you. And there's Dylan. He's here.
Yes, I grok Spock. Happy 50th, Star Trek. How you guys doing today?
So what is going on, Dylan? Don't mind me. I'm just looking to see where the cable popped out here.
Oh, not much happening. I got some bad news about a half hour before the snooze. My stepfather apparently fell and is being rushed to the hospital right now. So hopefully he's going to be okay. My mom seems to think he's going to be okay, but just, precautions. You never know. Other than that, not much going on. Football season has finally started, so woohoo! Today's first game, Panthers-Broncos, going on right now. So you better be watching this instead of football. I mean, we love football and all that, but snooze is more important.
Snooze Who cares about life. The Panthers? Who cares about the Panthers? So, as usual, the way we start off every snooze, you usually read off the coming birthdays. So what's going on with birthdays?
Absolutely. And once again, we have to thank the lovely Laura for keeping us up to date with the birthdays. Tomorrow, to be honest, I don't know if I follow her, so maybe I should follow this woman. Ocean 363 Carolyn. Her birthday is tomorrow. I don't recognize her, so maybe I will investigate her after the show. So happy birthday to you, Carolyn. September 11th.
She's on the list.
Yeah, I believe you. I might not necessarily have everybody on the list, so I need to double check that every once in a while. September 11th, which is Sunday, Real Texan 46, Larry Lindsay, I believe is his last name, is his birthday. Then we go across the pond to September 16th.
Oh, wait, hold on. And the lovely Brianna Solo's birthday is on Sunday.
That's right. There you go. We can't forget that. We go across the pond for September 16th is our English friend Matt Foster at Matt Foster 2010. His birthday September 16th, and then we close out September on September 28th with Brianne, Lady Sabry's birthday. So happy birthday to y'all in September. October, we've got 4 birthdays also. October 4th is River City Otter, or Jake, who's called himself Jake from State Farm before, but it's Jake. October 4th is also not a birthday related, but is Dylan Lang and Dawn Snarks' anniversary. So 13 years. Yep, 13 years. October 6th, we've got our friend Heather over in Delaware, Stardust 1006. Her birthday is October 6th. October 9th, we've got Melinda's birthday. She's the Silken Soul. And rounding out our last birthday, probably till the next snooze, is the lovely H. Wilson 2009. Hall's birthday is on October 12th. And that are the Snark House birthdays.
Those are the birthdays.
Yep.
We love birthdays because we get to eat cake. So, anyway, happy birthday to everybody. Because everybody's got one.
Live long and prosper. Had to do it. Sorry. Go on, sir.
Does one of your Spocks have a beard? Because that shirt would make more sense if one had the beard.
It is. It's from Mirror. So it's made as a style of a boxing, old style boxing. Got this from Loot Crate. I'm sure Mr. Kelly Tools probably got one too. Very weird because I know he's a Loot Crate fanatic also. So
that's an awesome shirt though.
It is. They got some pretty good ones. I like this one. They had a really good RoboCop one I like. There's a really good Warcraft one I like. So X-Files one was pretty cool. So they've been, and there's some that I'm like, yeah, okay. What's the one? Benny and Foster or something, one of these adult cartoons or something like that I don't really watch. They did a shirt that came out with that. And then the most recent one's I don't watch Archer, but they have the character of Archer for president. And I kind of like it just on... it looks neat. So
yeah, sometimes you see a shirt and you just like it and you don't know why. It's the colors, the design, or it's cool. So yeah, it's I hope Scotty's watching because I wanted him to see I'm wearing a Led Zeppelin shirt. I put a Led Zeppelin worm in his ear, so he's got an earworm. So on the way home from work, I get a tweet from Dylan, and he's like, "Hey, Tony, did you hear the last ship has been renewed for season 5?" And like I thought I had heard it was renewed, but after the last episode, and I know Dylan doesn't watch the show, and I think I had a Myrna moment because I was scratching my head and I was like, yeah, well, I knew they were going to have another season after this one because after last week's episode, the finale is Sunday. Based on the preview, it looks like it's going to end in a cliffhanger. Now, this show has never had a cliffhanger episode. I think when it first came on, it was supposed to be like a one and done, or hey, let's put it out there, and if people like it, we'll go forward. But the way every season has gone, every season has ended, and the next season picks up where it left off. But if they didn't have the next season, you'd be okay with it, which is unlike what they did with Under the Dome, which wasn't planned out that way. And I will say, I have said this on Twitter before, and I think I may have said it on the SNEWS. I think it's the best show that's currently on TV right now. Okay. Based on its pace and the characters and the storyline. I think it's a great show. But I'm scratching my head because, wait, there's going to be a season 5. And I was like, okay, well, in the first season, they're looking for a cure for the virus. And if you're not watching the show, there might be some spoilers here. But the premise of the show is there's people on a destroyer that was sent out to sea because the government knew that there was going to be the release of this virus. And it kills like 98% of the world's population. And their job was to go find the cure. Well, at the end of the first season, they find the cure. And then the second season comes where they are fighting a small-scale war with what happens is they've got to distribute the cure now. They've got to get it out. And they're fighting a group of people who are what they call the immunes. Everybody else dies, and whoever's left are the immunes. And they are trying to make sure that everybody else is immune too. So they're trying to wipe out the rest of the population. So there's kind of a war going on. During the course of that season, they find someone who is in the president's cabinet, and he is the president because through succession. So they get him to St. Louis, and they start fresh there in St. Louis. And that's the way the second season ends. Third season, now we're going to bring the cure to the Middle East. Big war. And that's where we are now. So, but I'm saying to myself, there's only been 3 seasons. So what they did, though, when I got home, I read up, and I had heard this, but like I wasn't sure. They had renewed it about a month ago for season 4. And then now they have said, okay, no, not only is there going to be a season 4, but there's going to be a season 5. So you threw me off a little bit.
Oh, sorry. I think what that sounds like what they're probably going to be doing with that then is I'm betting season 5 will probably be the last one. And they're going to take the last 2 seasons to lead to that progressive end, because once they got that 5th season, they say, okay, let's push to that finale so we can wrap up our story that we've been trying to tell. And that's just my opinion. I don't know if that's true. And then, after the 5th season, it'll be done. So I don't know if that's true or not, but when they do something where they've just announced a 4th season, they're like, oh yeah, by the way, we'll just make it a 5th season. It seems more like the company that makes the show will be like, hey, could you maybe give us one more season? Because we got this giant story arc we want to tell, and it can be done best in 2 seasons. Is it possible you could do that? And they'll be like, yeah, sure, it's fine. So I think that's probably what would happen. I could be wrong.
Well, so one of the reasons why I started watching the show was Adam Baldwin is on it, who was, Jane. And I, started watching it because of him, but Dr. McDreamy is on it too, Eric Dane, and he plays the cat. It's a great cast, and he is fantastic, and he's also one of the executive producers. And without giving too much away, I don't know where the show is. I don't know if you can catch up online or if you have to have Hulu or Netflix to see the previous seasons, but it is definitely a great show. There's a lot of action. There's a lot of great characters in it. And you want to know something? I've said this before too. When I watch that show, like, all of these guys are like U.S. Navy, and it's like, if our Navy is just like even half as good as these guys are on the show, we've got awesome people in our military. I mean, not that I didn't think that our military wasn't awesome already, but to watch that, like at the end of every show, I'm like, yeah, man, that's us. That's Americans. We did that shit. Even though I know it's a TV show and I know it's all fake.
That's
but
funny.
it is a great show. So, and it's been out there for, it's a little bit, there's a little bit more to that than Stranger Things. Stranger Things is an easier sell because it was only an 8-episode thing. I think they are 13 episodes per season.
It makes sense. The Lost Ship doesn't seem to be around for like the whole year. It just seems to be around for like a small.
It's a summer show. Probably, it's definitely a summer show, and it is fantastic. And we've covered, hey, Sunday is the only day I watch TV. So it's definitely, if you want to catch up, there's only going to be 2 more seasons, I guess. I mean, what Dylan just said makes a lot of sense because I think they're going to go out on top. I could see them also doing some spin-offs and changing it because I know, like, if you're looking at it, you could see almost how it possibly could end. So it would definitely be something good to catch up on. And I know Laura has a crush on one of the characters, and he hasn't been in the show this season up until like the last episode. He popped back up, but Laura has been watching, and what she's saying is it sounds like they're going to film season 4 and 5 at the same time. So, hey, that would be great. And I'm wondering if they're going to do season 4 and then maybe tack season. Well, from what I read, it's going to go through the summer of 2018. So, I guess it might make sense for them to film it all at one time because it's really hard to wrap up actors to say, hey, I'm going to need you again in 6 months. They have to pay them to do that,
Right.
And some of these people are going to definitely be in other things. And, Adam Baldwin is great. He is phenomenal. And so is Eric Dane and the rest of the cast. They're all great. There's a couple of them that are fantastic. I mean, most of them are. My favorite character is, and I don't know the actor's name, but they call him Master Chief. And he's like a wall. He's just like, he hardly ever shows emotion. He just does what he's got to do and stuff, and he's always there. Like you can count on him and stuff. But every once in a while, like he cracks a little bit, and you're like, yeah, go ahead, Mr. Chief, do what you got to do. It's I can't, like I get a little bit carried away sometimes. People in my house look at me like, it's just a TV show, Dad. No, but you don't understand. It's not just a show.
No, I mean, it's good when you find a show that you can get really excited about and you want to spread the excitement to everybody and get everybody to watch it as well. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So, where do we want to go next? I'm just trying to think. Where do we want to go next? Let's. I know. Okay, so let's talk about something that Dylan can't talk about again. Fear the Walking Dead. Okay. So, yeah, we're 3 episodes in, and so, first episode is 44 minutes of Nick, and what I can tell you, and I'm not going to give any spoilers away, but he splits off from the group. Everybody was together, and they split off. And the way they love to have everybody going in different directions in The Walking Dead. So we had one group. We have Travis and the son. The son is worse than Carl. Okay, he's a little friggin' snot. Chris. Chris goes running away. So Travis, the dad, goes after his kid. That leaves Madison, Alicia, and Strand, and Ophelia together. And Nick goes his own way. That's the way last season ended. Everybody was like going in different directions. First episode was all Nick. And the actor is phenomenal. I like Nick. I think Nick is probably going to end up being one of the most badass characters of the whole show. But I didn't need to see him for a freaking hour. I mean, every time he walks out of a house and he does that drug addict walk, he does it so good. And like, I wonder if they're reminding him, hey, you know, you're still a druggie, so you got to do that. Like, he does that, like, look around, and he almost acts as if, ooh, look, this is the first time I'm using these legs, and they work. Because, like, he comes out and he's kind of unsteady on them and stuff. Like, he looks like he's in a perpetual fall, almost like the way, like a 7 or an 8-month-old kid, like, who's just starting to take their first steps. Like, they don't look like they're walking. They look like they're in a perpetual fall and are not in control. That's the way Nick walks. But interestingly enough, almost okay, I did not. Why are you doing that? Yeah, I didn't want to do that. So Nick, we find out that Nick is way, way out of his league with Gloria, because as he's making his trek across Mexico, poor Helena. You didn't bring her the wine, John. That's why she was able to run screaming out of the room. You were supposed to get her juiced up, and then you were supposed to tie her to the chair. You see just a little bit of backstory with Nick, and you see him with Gloria in the drug rehab place that they're together. So you get to see her, and he was way out of his league. I mean, I don't know what the ladies think of Nick, if they think he was a good-looking guy or whatever. But to tell you the truth, she's just way out of his league. Backstory, first episode, all Nick. Okay. Second episode gets a little bit better because now we pick up with Strand and Madison, Ophelia, and Alicia. And now the first thing that they're going to do is they leave the ranch and they're going to go see if they can get on the boat. Abigail's not there anymore. The boat's gone. So they assume that the military waited for them to leave the boat, and then they came in, stole the boat. So they got no boat. So now they're just making their way. And they find a hotel, which is cool. They go through the hotel. Well, Ophelia and Alicia do. And Madison and Strand go to the bar and decide to get drunk. And getting drunk is going to be the theme of the rest of this show. So meanwhile, we get a little bit more Nick involved, you know, so they're going back and forth. And it was a better episode. But at that point, I decided that I wasn't going to be watching. After the Nick-centric episode, I decided, because the strain was also coming back, I decided I was going to DVR Fear. And I was going to watch The Last Ship live, because there's only a couple of episodes left. And then I was going to watch The Strain live. And then I would watch Fear at my leisure. Better episode, I thought. Still a little bit annoying. They're really trying hard to make Nick do things that will make you like him.
Okay.
And I don't want to go into any spoilers, but the Madison and Strand get stranded get surrounded by zombies, and then one of the stupidest things ever that happens is we get to episode 3, which is the last episode where we are now. And at this point, Scott is saying, Abigail didn't even have a hot tub. Yeah, well, you want to know something? The only person you'd want to be in the hot tub with is probably Alicia. And Strand would get in. Strand would come in. And he'd try and get in between you. And listen, everybody knows, Scott, you have a couple of drinks in you, and you get all kissy-huggy with everybody. So, but better episode. They're still trying to make Nick the likable kid, the likable guy. I like him. I think he's a good character. It's just at this point, it's a little bit too predictable, and it's just meh. Nothing to write home about. And that brings us to the last episode, which is Chris and Travis and back at the hotel, and it's basically mostly just Alicia because Ophelia has gone, we know not where. And Ophelia is definitely picked up in the badassery department. Like, she's doing a couple of things that are crazy. And she's actually said some things where she said something where they were telling a story, and the way the last episode 3 starts is with a flashback of the person that she ends up meeting in the hotel, where there was a wedding going on, and she locked the door after somebody turned at the wedding.
Right.
And it was, I was like, why? Why did they do that? Like, I couldn't understand, and I still don't understand the motivation for it, but regardless, she tells Alicia, what happened and what she did, and she turns around and she said, "We've done worse," and I was trying to think what they did that was worse, but they've done some. I mean, when you talk about, season 1 where they let 15,000 zombies out of the arena to come down on all those troops. Yeah, that was pretty sick. Fear, when there is no last ship, I will watch it. I know, and maybe next news, or maybe next week after the finale for the last ship, and we're halfway through the first piece, maybe we'll do a special SNEWS next week, and we'll get Helena on, so we can hear her. Just do a quick thing next week, just so we can hear her and John bitch, and because she has told me that she is hate watching Fear, and I haven't hate watched the show since Under the Dome, and I don't want to get into Under the Dome because I hated the show by the time they finally freaking ended, and it was just so sloppy from halfway through season 1 until the end. They did stupid things. They were throwing episodes in just so they could have an episode, and then viewership went down the tubes. Why? Because the quality of the show went down the tubes and people stopped watching. So, that's where we're at with Fear. There's some good stuff happening, but not so bad.
Yeah, I've got about 6 episodes on the DVR, so again, someday we'll get to it.
Yeah, I just see right now, there's nothing on TV that I want to watch, and if I do get a couple of minutes, I mean, I'm on Netflix, and right now I have gone back to the beginning, and there was shows I missed, shows I didn't see, and actually, I'm gonna admit that I didn't watch the X-Files when it was on originally. So I went back, and X-Files are all on Netflix. So I'm into season 3 now,
Ooh,
and
good.
and X-Files is one of those shows that they did a full season of shows. Like they did 25, 26 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not like what we're getting today, and there's a big difference. Maybe we can talk about that later on. So I am watching. If I'm not watching TV on Sunday, I am watching X-Files right now.
Could be worse. It's a great show. It's going through a 22, 25 season episode season. You're going to get your good and your bad. There's some really, really good episodes. There's some really, really crappy ones, and there's some really, really in the middle type of ones. So, you know, if you can just get through some of the crappy ones, you'll find a gem eventually. And I think the gems outweigh the crappy ones in the early seasons. It's the later seasons where I have a little more trouble with the X-Files, but that's just me personally.
It seems to me that the better episodes seem to be the ones that Chris Carter is writer or involved in the story somehow. They tend to be better. There hasn't been anyone that I hated. But there's been some that I definitely really liked, and some that it was like, okay, yeah, that was an okay episode. You know, I wouldn't, based on this episode, I wouldn't go out and recommend it to anybody.
You've got, I think, if I'm thinking correctly, you've got 3 excellent episodes in season 3, all written by Darren.
McFadden?
Darren, no, it's not Darren McFadden. I forget his last. Darren Morgan. And it's Clyde Bruckman's Final Repose, which is a great story about a guy.
I saw that.
Okay, that's a good one. My personal favorite of the 3 is War of the Carpophages, which is you haven't seen that one yet. It's about interstellar cockroaches.
Yes, no, actually, I just started watching that one tonight. I'm like 10 minutes into it. Because I started watching that one when we started going back and forth with the percentage of done on our updates. So I started watching that one, and it was pretty. That has an excellent opening. This episode, where the first victim of these cockroaches that end up coming up out of the floor. The way the pest control character is talking, you'd think that he was a scientist in the way they have the lighting and stuff. And the way he's talking about the cockroach that he's holding in his fingers, you think that he is a scholarly type man. And then he just throws it on the ground and squishes it with his shoe. And then he says, and then you finally see the guy he's talking to, and the guy asks him a question. He says, I don't know, I just kill him. And then he just starts spraying. And he died. And so that's where I'm at with that one. I just saw the Bruckner one. That was like 2 or 3 episodes ago. Yeah. And the previous one, I don't know the name of it because I didn't pay attention. Yeah. But it was about, so they're protecting this little boy who's got the stigmata. He's got, he's bleeding from his hands and his feet.
Yeah,
he's got the wounds of Christ. Mm-hmm. So it was a pretty decent episode. But Myrna wants to know what hate watching is. Hate watching is watching a show just because it sucks. It's kind of like what I did at the second half of Containment, or even though I didn't hate watch it outright, but more along the lines of what Scotty and I were doing during Under the Dome, where we were just ripping it apart every episode because it just it didn't make any sense and it was all over the place, and that's what happens when you hate watch something. You just watch it because you want to hate it.
Yeah, and I think the last one of that season, is going to be Jose Chung's From Outer Space, and that's a really good one too. So you got that one to look forward to, and there's also a really good Swamp Monster one coming up too, and it focuses on Scully's dog Queequeg, which is really funny. So there's another good one coming up. So
Okay, so that's not that little dog that she got from one of the previous episodes.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yes, the little.
Okay, it's the one
Puffball. Yeah, it calls. She's
from that Clyde Bruckner's
yeah,
one that
and
you just mentioned.
so what she's doing is in War of the Carpophagia, she spends pretty much the whole episode giving him a bath. So while she's talking to Mulder.
Okay.
So it's pretty funny. Well, not the whole episode, but like a good portion of it, she's giving Queequeg a bath. So it's pretty funny.
Well, one of the reasons why that episode was so good was Peter Boyle was the guy, and he is excellent. He is excellent. So, I mean, that, like, I was like, holy, I mean, like, the episode, I think, previous to that one had Jack Black, and I can't remember the name of the other actor, but he looks like a young version of the dude that's in 12 Monkeys. Not Cole, but and I didn't look because I said, I've seen this guy before. But there's a whole bunch of young actors that come through there that I'm like, holy crap, that's Jack Black. And then you look at the credits and it's like, yeah, it's Jack Black. You know, and he looks the same, except now he's chunkier than he was back then. But yeah, it's a great show. And we weren't even supposed to talk about X-Files, right. But X-Files is a great show. And so that's what I watch when I am not watching TV. Like, I will sit there with my iPad and I'll have my pluggies in and I'll sit in the family room and everybody will be watching The Bachelor or whatever show they're watching. And I'll sit there with them, and then every once in a while someone will tap me on the shoulder and I'll hit pause and I'll take the thing out and we'll talk, and then I'll put it back in and I'll, you know, and everybody's happy. And so it's not like I'm going to a different TV. It's great.
Exactly. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Excellent.
So, next, yeah. Well, everybody hated Containment and Under the Dome and Dome 1. Yes, everybody hated it, Myrna. Even the people that worked on the show hated it. They're like, man, look at this shitty script you're giving me. Like, I got to say these words. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
But it's okay. I can fall asleep on my millions.
Yes. Let me shove some money over here because this side of my mattress is getting a little bit too lumpy. You know who was doing that? Stephen King. He's like, oh, I need more pillowcases because I've got more money I want to shove in here. So, The Strain.
Yes.
Okay. So, I am going to maybe talk a little bit negatively about The Strain, but I love the show. I need people to understand from the beginning, I really like the show. There are just some characters that I hate, and I hate the way they're being dealt with. And I was tweeting at Dylan the other night, like, I hate this guy. And, you know, like I was watching the show, and what they showed, like, I was loving the evil characters at one point more than I was liking the characters that are supposed to be the good guys. So, because we haven't heard too much from Dylan, let's hear where Dylan's at with The Strain, and then we'll go through some of the characters, and I'll say hated it.
Yeah, I'll wait because this is one of those shows where I have a character I truly hate also, and Tony knows who it is already because I was tweeting about it last week. I mean, everyone who's read my tweets will know who it is. But to be honest, you know, what really got me was Dawn read the trilogy of books, so she was looking forward to it. And you know, the first season was pretty good, I guess. And the second season they were, you know, doing some stuff that's some aberrations. She's like, okay, it's okay. But then at the end of the second season, when they killed Nora, that was it for Dawn because Nora is actually in the whole trilogy and plays an important role in it. And then they kill her off, and so she's like, I'm done with the show. But now she still sits and watches it with me, but she's not liking it as much as she did before. But I never read the book, so I'm just going by what's on the screen, and it's a pretty good idea. I mean, I'm finally glad. The second season to me dragged a little bit. I think they're starting it off really well because now it makes sense. They say it's like 23, 24 days later.
I was going to bring that up, and we'll get back. We'll talk about that.
Mm-hmm. It's like 23, 24 days later, and so finally the country, the world is realizing that these things are real. There's something going on, and we're starting to react to it as you're supposed to. So you're starting to see a little bit more action oriented stuff. You see a little bit more of we got to figure out how to beat the master. You know, we got to use all the things we can. So I kind of like where they're going with they only done 2 episodes so far this season? Yeah, only 2 episodes. Yeah. Next week looks like we're finally going to figure out what's going on with Quinlan, who I actually absolutely love. So we'll be able to see, you know, since he's been around since like the time of Christ, obviously, I think. So I'd like to see his history about that. So it should be a lot of fun. I just want to see more Satrakian doing badass stuff instead of reading a book. So other than that, yeah.
So far this season, they have portrayed Satrakian a little bit weaker than they have shown him in the past. Like he was like an old man, but he was a badass. But yeah, I mean, that struck me at the beginning of the first episode, where at the beginning of the episode, the voiceover is Satrakian, and he's basically bringing everybody up to speed. And when he says it's 23 days since the plane crashed or whatever in New York City that started this whole chain of events, I'm like, wow, it's barely been 3 weeks. So I'm guessing, and I don't know if it actually pans out, that each season is probably just a 1 week span of time. Okay. Because if it's 21 days, you know, 3 weeks is
that makes sense. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it does kind of make sense if you kind of like, if you get into it, like they'll have like 3 episodes in a row that are only coming out, you know, it's always dark. And then they'll have a couple of episodes in a row where it's daytime. Then they'll have, you know, like a day-night, but they don't have a lot of episodes. So, like, it kind of has that feel. But, like, wow, like, it's only been 23 days, and it feels like it should be longer. But it's still wintertime there. You know, like, you still see piles of snow and
they're wearing jackets and the breath coming out of there. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, I love the show. I love the story. But I just really hate, like, I was like, and, you know, F has the reputation for, and I haven't tweeted it out yet this year, but he had the potential, and Quinlan stopped him from grabbing the book, but for quote unquote effing things up, because everybody calls him F, but you know he F's things up, so. Zach and Father. You want to know something? I don't like Zach. He's a little dick. Okay, but like at least he tried to escape, and now he's got the white now, which is pretty good. But F. Okay, let's see. What is F's biggest problem? Does anybody know? Does anybody know what F's biggest problem?
I know, but I'll let you do it. I know. I'll let you do it.
What is it? Because everywhere he goes, he finds booze. Everywhere he goes, and like at one point, you know, he goes into the little laboratory he's got, and you know, and he's got a bottle. He goes and he's going to trade some stuff to get some stuff, and he gets a bottle. He goes to the club where Fett and Zatrakian are, and there's a nice bar there, and what does he do? He pours himself a couple of drinks. Okay, yeah, and I got to the point where I'm like, yeah, we get it. He's a freaking alcoholic, and he's been drinking incessantly. Okay, now for the amount of booze that this guy has consumed in the last 21 days, he should be blind. He should be dead. His liver should be revolting and coming out of his nose. Okay, I don't think anybody could drink that much and still be conscious and still, well, be conscious, functional, and alive. It would be impossible. And I think maybe only one time did he wake up with any kind of hangover.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, actually, I think when he went down to D.C. and he slept with that lady that he met that ended up getting killed. I think at one point he was being a little bit hungover. But I mean, okay, yeah, we get it. You're an alkie. We get it.
And look, I understand also. Oh, my son's been taking, and Nora's dead. But you've been drinking before all that happened. So, you can't make the case that it's because he's all depressed and all sad and all like that. No, because he's been doing it before all that shit happened. So maybe they're leading to something. Hopefully, he's going to do something really stupid, and it's finally going to make him go, "Oh shit, I need to stop drinking alcohol," and then we'll get the F we need to figure out. Now that's the thing that I hope they get back to, and I'm sure they wouldn't just put it out there and not come back to it. But the fact that his thing to defeat the Strigoi is now 75% effective. So there's a 25% gap between something happened where either they're getting immune to it or something's happening where something is not right. And I hope they come back to him trying to figure out, okay, what is causing it to be 75% effective instead of 100% effective. I think that's an interesting story, and I wish they would follow up on that again. But as I said, it's only been 2 episodes, so hopefully they will.
So we had Lee at the Tiki Bar today, and I'm sure she wasn't at the Tiki Bar yesterday. And basically, what F is doing is having a Tiki Bar wherever he goes. So, again, problem with that, and that's one of the things that F was working on. Like, it's getting less effective. Why? It does seem like the Strigoi can somehow evolve and develop immunities, and that just points to, and I think what we'll find out is that there's somebody that is inside helping, and I'm just now I kind of like her. I'm still on the fence, but the blonde lady from Staten Island, I can't remember her name because she's just not significant enough for me to remember her name.
Right.
I cannot remember her name for the life of me. Ooh, excuse me. Too much seltzer.
Booze.
Yeah, booze.
Yeah, I'm not very good with names and stuff like that either. So I know who you're talking about. I just can't think of their name either. So.
So I was going through the cast, and I was trying to say, okay, do I like them or not? So Kelly, I like her as a vampire. She's cool. Like, she's all jerky and stuff, and I just want her to eat Zach, and she's dying to eat her own son because that's what she's supposed to do.
Being the leader of the creepy children is awesome. Also, I want to see more
those spider kids. Yeah. Those spider kids, they creep me out when I see them, and I hate them when they're on the screen. But as soon as they leave, like, it makes me happy. So, like, I think I kind of like them too. I love Ike Horst. I love his attitude, his snappy lines. I just love Ike Horst. He's a bad guy, and he's a prick, but you gotta love the guy. Gus, I love Gus. Gus is a good guy. We've seen him for a whole 20 seconds. He was feeding his mom puppy chow the last time we saw him. And this is somebody that Quinlan enlisted, as a good fighter, a survivor, for a survivor and stuff. And I want to see more of Quinlan and Gus together. I want to see Gus being a badass because Gus is a great character, and the guy who plays him is totally believable. Great cast. Palmer, hate him. Supposed to hate him, and I know that. You could read the tea leaves. You could read his tea leaves. When the master finds out that he is trying to
make a deal.
Mm-hmm. Make a deal with his enemy, the master is going to find out. And the master and or Ike Horst are just going to end up, they're going to realize, okay, your usefulness to us has gone, so he's going to go away. And that's going to be great. Because I hate him. The worst thing that they did was kill Coco, though. Okay, because there needed to be some eye candy on the show, and there's not enough eye candy on the show. Dutch, eh, she's just there. They finally showed her. You don't like her?
Oh no, I hate her.
I mean,
she annoys the shit out of me. It's not because she's Australian. She just, it's the whole point is that I feel like they went with the beauty over the brains, because I liked Nora. I really liked Nora. I liked the actress who played her. I liked her character. And I think what they're planning on doing is, I think they're planning on turning Dutch into Nora, which is, making her become more involved and taking up Nora's place. It's like, why don't you just do Nora instead? I know why, because you're a hot blonde chick who doesn't mind getting nude every once in a while. So I know why you did it, but I just there's something about her character. I mean, look, I felt for her last season. That was a horrible episode for her, not in the series. The series was a really good episode because it was so made your skin crawl, where Ike Horst was basically torturing her mentally and technically a little bit physically also, but mostly mentally. I felt for her then, and I thought that, her storyline wrapped up. It would make perfect sense for her to go back to her lesbian lover and not deal with this shit anymore. It made perfect sense, because when you've gone through something like that, you don't want to be reminded about it over and over and over again. And then when the lesbian lover's like, no, I don't want that anymore, Dutch was sort of aimless. She should have just said, you know what, I can't stay here. And she should have left if she could have and gone someplace else. Or maybe it makes sense for her to stay and find another group and try to help out. I'll admit, maybe she might be growing on me a little bit, because I liked her badassery in the episode last week with that horrible millennial group that she was with. But there's just still
the group of red shirts that she was with.
Yeah, exactly.
I call them the group of red shirts. Yeah,
and it turned out to be true. Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, I don't like her replacing Nora, and I feel like that's what they're going to be doing, because she happens to be a hot chick who doesn't mind getting naked.
Yeah, but let's face it, she's not going to get naked on the show, and
she already did the bath scene in the pool last season. So with Fett,
yeah, I'm not impressed. I mean, I'm still on the fence with her. I mean, she's getting back in. Hey, you want to know something? Fett. I really like Fett. I've got one small problem with Fett, and that's his accent. Like, he's got like a marbly mouth way of talking that sometimes, especially when he's talking fast, I'm like, what the fuck did he say? I kind of like throw on the closed captioning. like, come on. But I mean, the guy's a chick magnet, he'll bang Strigoi if you gave him a chance,
He's the Kirk,
Yeah, he is. Look, he's doing a green lady. Check that out.
I mean, I think I like him too, because he likes his history, and I'm a history guy like that. I like the fact that he's badass too, and he's pretty smart also. And we learned something interesting, is that the government, the army, is if we can't find the master, we're leaving, and saying F New York, we're going to go try to save Washington. We found that out in the first episode, and that's actually pretty interesting and telling. And they should, they obviously are, because they mentioned it again last week. Are going to be departing, so that could be an interesting storyline to come up. Also, what's going to happen once the army moves out, the National Guard? What's going to happen? So I think it's interesting.
Okay, so we'll go through. I like Satrakian. Everybody likes Satrakian. Everybody likes Fett. Everybody likes Gus for the most part. Ike Horst. I like the Master. We're not seeing enough of the Master, but I kind of like the idea of the Master. And I'm really hoping we get to see some more of those. And I know certain people don't like flashbacks, especially when they actually, from learning about the past, it helps you understand what's going on now. But those concentration camp memories from Satrakian, last year, where you see the origin of Eichhorst and how Eichhorst and Satrakian know each other, is actually brilliantly done. But yeah, I mean, I can't really say anything bad about the show, except, like every once in a while, like in the last episode when they had the military guys going in the subway and they were getting their asses kicked, I'm saying to myself, what happened to the UV lights that we were carrying with us? Why can't they mount a UV light on the barrel of the gun and just wave that around? Because if you've got one of these guys, first of all, they're going at night into these tunnels. Why are you going at night? Why don't you go during the day? Because that's when they're less active. Even when they're down in the tunnels in the dark, they're, how many times have we seen groups and groups of Strigoi all kind of huddled together in some kind of, fugue state?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't understand, like, why go at night, and why doesn't everybody have like a gigantic, car battery on their back connected to a nice UV light so you could just like blast the whole thing in front of you? It seems simple, but I guess we're not that smart. But when you're dealing with a city as big as New York, you're not going to kill them all. And every time, kind of like cockroaches, one female in her lifetime can lay like 20 million eggs and have 20 million offspring or something like that, some kind of strange high number. But it is a great show, loving it. And I did think I mentioned Justine Feraldo is the one, the councilwoman lady.
Yeah, the one played by that actress. Yes.
Yes, yeah, that chick with the blonde hair that's was credited with cleaning out Staten Island, and now she's trying to do the rest of the city. Yeah, and then we're going to find out that the Strigoi can swim.
Yeah,
and that's going to be the end of that. They're not affected by the cold. It is a great show. I want to see some more badassery. I want to learn a little bit more about the council, the elders that they see every once in a while. I'm interested into, and where they come from and what their story is and why they're against the master. I guess they don't want, if you turn everybody into Strigoi, what do you eat?
Right, yeah, exactly.
I guess that's what their whole deal is.
But I like the fact that it looks like we're going to learn more about Quinlan next week or on Sunday. So I think that's going to be, because I love his character, and I think he's got one of the more interesting histories. So we'll see how things go and how someone who should be going after humans and eating them and all that stuff, how he's able to fight against that. So I think that's going to be really interesting and have this hatred for the master. So I think that's it should be a very interesting turn of events, see what happens. So hopefully it's going to be good, and hopefully the season will be good. And so we've got 11 more episodes to go. So we've got a long way to go. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm just, again, like, why is there different forms of Strigoi, and how is Quinlan so, articulate and smart and, like you said, in control, as opposed to someone like Kelly, who a tough time not to eat her kid, and she's very, very, she doesn't have the physical control. Now, again, like you said, Quinlan may have been around since the time of Christ, and Kelly's new to it, and Eichhorst also is the same as Kelly, but Kelly is at the Quinlan level, So and in a flashback, I'd like to see maybe Eichhorst a little bit less in control, and maybe the master sent tutoring him on what to do, but. Interestingly enough, little Zach gets the white, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
And Palmer don't get it.
Yeah, he don't. And then I totally had forgotten that last season they showed us Trakian hunting down the Strigoi and making that white to survive. I had totally forgotten about that subplot. And then when all of a sudden, what's his face? The old dude shows up and says, "Hey, Palmer, yes, thank you." Says, "Hey, I know you've been synthesizing it. Can you synthesize some for me?" And I was like, "Oh shit, that's right, he was." So I kind of like that they came back to that, because I had totally forgotten about that. So
yeah, that was a pretty big piece of an episode where they catch him doing it, and he said, he's got to get it just right in order for it to work, because he's supposed to be 90 years old, or some such, whatever they mentioned in the last episode. So, yes.
Well, I mean, you got to consider, I guess, he seemed to be about 20-ish in the 1940s, so that means he was born like in the 1920s, and yeah, he's got to be in his upper 90s right now. And the fact that he's able to continue to be a badass, as it were, running around slicing up Strigoi and doing stuff like that, something's going on with that.
Well, and again, we learned about this in a flashback, Myrna, that Satrakian and Palmer were both trying to get the lumen, and or it was something else, but Palmer beat him to it.
Yeah, I think they were supposed to be working together because they were friends,
right?
And then Palmer got a better deal and decided to turn on his friend. That was what caused that hatred between the two of them. So
right, and that's why he actually mentioned that, and you wouldn't know what he was talking about unless you paid attention to that flashback from back then. And that's why they call it a flashback. So they do and did have a history together, which is very important. It's kind of strange, like a Stranger Thing.
Speaking of flashbacks, yeah.
Speaking of flashbacks, now I'm gonna say a couple of snoozes ago, and even last snooze, I've been prodding and pushing and cajoling my buddy Dylan to watch Stranger Things. I have nothing but good things to say about the show. And spoiler alert, we may get into certain spoilers, but I know there are certain people that have just started watching it, so I don't want to get into too much detail. But so Dylan, have you watched Stranger Things?
We watched the last. Dawn and I were watching it together. We watched the last episode last night, so we've seen all 8 episodes. And I'll have to paraphrase what my lovely wife put out on a tweet last night. Holy shitballs, that was excellent.
Spherical pellets of poo. Yes, I remember that tweet. I saw that. No, thank you. I don't want a Pop-Tart. It looks like a deformed ravioli that's got the measles. Myrna.
Okay.
That has measles on it. No, thank you. But yeah, okay. So. Other than my saying you got to watch it, did the show actually go into areas where you did not expect?
Maybe a little bit. I don't really know what I was expecting. I had heard, because there are other people besides you who were people I work with like that were talking to me and said, I think you'd really dig it. It seems to be up your alley. And I'd read some stories about it, interviews with some of the people, and I like it's hard to say that nothing really surprised me. I mean, the reveals of things surprised me about what was going on, but the general consensus of alternate dimensions, parallel dimensions, and bizarre horror creatures, that was sort of pretty cool to see. So I think what I've heard from Stranger Things, what people were saying, and a very big callback to the 1980s, obviously, which we'll get into in a little bit too, and a combination of like Stephen King and Steven Spielberg and all kinds of stuff. I sort of got an idea of what it was going to be about. But yeah, there was a few little things that surprised me a little bit. Yes.
Okay, so I should have asked you a different question.
Okay.
So at what point did you think this thought? Because you definitely had to have this in your head. What the fuck is going on here? Because I had that, like I was trying to, especially in the first couple episodes. It's a show about a child who goes missing. Basically, in a nutshell, that's what the show is, and the search for this child.
I can tell you where it is. Okay, yeah, go ahead and continue.
So you've got the where I had my first "what the hell is going on here" moment was when we started getting that Close Encounters vibe. Is what I called it, with the lights going on and off. And I'm like, what the hell's going on here? And then, let me tell you, except for one episode, and I think it was number 6, the kids were great. Like, the kids were written as kids, they were portrayed by kids, and they were great. I did hear from someone that they said the toothless kid, and I don't know his name.
Dustin.
Okay, the toothless kid was really annoying. But then there was the little African American kid, and this is the part that annoyed me. Some of the words and the concepts that were coming out of his mouth in that particular episode, where they were doing like some sort of reveal where he was anti, that I was like, I'm not believing this part. This I'm not believing, like, because it's coming out of the mouth of a kid. You know, like, that kind of took me out of it a little bit. But other than that one character and in that one specific episode, I loved it. And I would not even give it a 10. I would give it an 11.
Oh, no. Oh, no. That's good. That's good. No, I mean, yeah, I mean, I'll have to, right off the bat, Winona Ryder's fantastic in this. She is phenomenal in this. It's great to see her back in some form of acting. She seems like she's disappeared off the face of the earth. She had an appearance in, again, I'm going to mention it, in the Star Trek movie where she played Spock's mom in the new Star Trek version. That was really the only last time I remember maybe actually seeing her in anything in recent times. And now she comes back with this 8-episode TV Netflix series, and she just comes and grabs you right back, saying, "Oh my God, this is why I loved her, and I wish she would keep doing it." And what got me the point you were discussing was, it was around the 2nd episode or whatever where she's starting to hear the voice of her son, and she's getting the lights, and she's beginning to think she's having conversations with them and hearing his voice and stuff like that. And then when they throw the cliffhanger of, I think it's the 2nd episode or the 3rd episode, with the body being found in the reservoir or whatever, that was what threw me for a second. Through Dawn, she's like, what the hell is going on? Is Winona Ryder insane, or is there something more?
Yeah,
go ahead.
I think that's what they were trying to go for. They were trying to make you kind of see, because even her older son is, you know, outside looking in, sort of, and you get the impression that you're watching the self-destruction, or the actual, how this lady is going to come apart. And, you know, there's that scene, and it's not the 2nd episode. I think it gets into the 3rd, where they go in, they identify the body, and they're in town, and she's refusing to believe, because she said, "That's not my son. That's not my son. That's not my son." And he said, "Well, we're having the funeral tomorrow." You know, and like, you know, they have this rift. You're like, wow, this lady really is wacko. I mean, like, that's your kid. Your kid's dead. They found your kid. And, you know, from there,
it opens a whole other can of worms.
Yes. But so there is a group of 4 boys that are like, you know, the 4 amigos, and one of those kids is the one that goes missing. And these 3 kids are also have been out there looking for their friend, and out of nowhere, they find a girl, and her name is 11. And Dylan, you said it earlier. At one point, it turns into not one, but I think 2 and possibly 3 different Stephen King-like novels, because you've got like special telekinetic powers. I don't think in anything that I've read, and he may have with some of his other books, but gone into like more of a sci-fi realm with all other dimensions. And
well, the whole basis of the Dark Tower saga is basically this whole other dimension. So, and if you've read a lot of his books, the Dark Tower is a thread through a lot of his books. Even if you've never read the Dark Tower, he sometimes sticks in little asides that make you sometimes go, "What the hell are you writing, Steve?" You know, I think the one book that I remember is Gerald's Game, where the basic premise is there's a couple, they're into a little bit of a bondage sex thing, so the wife gets half naked and gets handcuffed to the bedpost, and then the husband gets killed or dies or something like that, and so she's stuck, and there's like some sort of satanic bear out there that she's afraid is going to, so it's just basically her trying to get away out of these handcuffs. And there's like a whole big sequence where she's talking about this guy in this dark tower seeing this stuff. And then Dolores Claiborne's another one, which is a pretty much a not generic, but a story about, a older woman who is getting abused, and then she ends up killing her abusive husband during an eclipse. And again, there's like this little image that appears of like the Dark Tower type of thing. So it's not so much like with the Upside Down in Stranger Things. I think the Dark Tower saga is its own dimension, and there's portals in and out, but it's not quite like the Upside Down, which is, we find out later on in the series that the Upside Down is basically the exact same universe, just with more slime and junk on it. It's really, really
it's you can't say enough that the kid who plays the older brother is great. Jonathan is great. The cute girl is great. 11 is great. Matthew Modine is a prick, and he's great. And there's a lot of surprises in the show. Don't want to give out too much, but the way it ends, again, that's a perfect ending. It ends, but there's just that little bit at the end where you say, okay, so they kind of did leave it a little bit open-ended, and we come to find out that yes, there's going to be a second season of Stranger Things, and I can't wait. I don't know when
I can't either. It's next year. They're doing it real quick because they said with the kids growing up, kids grow like weeds, so it's really hard to try to keep them a specific age if you haven't set a stop, because they're going to grow like weeds. So I think they're actually going to start filming it maybe this fall, or maybe next month even. It could be next month, November, because if you saw because the trailer for the second season is basically, it's going to be 10 episodes, it looks like, instead of the 8. And they did all the titles of the episodes just to give you a little bit of an idea of what it is. And one of them's called The Pumpkin Patch. Okay. So obviously it's going to be like a Halloween-esque type of scenario, because this one wasn't quite at Christmas, but it was in the winter, probably early December, probably mid to December, because of what happens at the end. So it's sort of that's Christmas. So now it looks like it's going to be like Halloween the year after, or something like that, is after what happened. So because and I could be wrong, the Pumpkin Patch could be something completely different, but having a name like that automatically makes you think of Halloween and pumpkin patches in the fall and stuff like that.
Well, I'm kind of thinking that the next season has to pick up almost directly where this one ended, only because it seemed like it was, I don't want to say wintertime, but it did seem like it was cold, at least fall, but the kids are in school. Okay. So it would make sense if they had pumpkin patch that, this could be early October when the thing was set. The actual exact time of year really doesn't make too much of a difference.
Right, because the story doesn't depend on it being November or October or whatever. It's just what they wanted to do for the atmosphere, I think. So
right. And one of the things that makes this show so likable and so believable is that because they put it into back in the 80s, there's no internet. There's like no computers, no cell phones. So there's no instant access to all of this crap. At one point, the kids are using CB radios and walkie-talkies, which is a cool touch. I think there's a couple of times where you see somebody whip out a Yellow Pages, and
the rotary dial phones. I mean, a couple of them explode, multiple times. So.
Well, as we watch the mom's descent into insanity, or so we think, her phones keep exploding, and that is interesting. Like, imagine, nobody today would ever have to deal with that kind of crap, but that is one of the things that makes the show work, because with everybody's and you'll see it happen in a lot of shows and in a lot of movies. They're out someplace and something is going on, and your first thought is pick up your cell phone and use your cell phone, call for help. And what do? They pick up their cell phone and they say, I've got no bars. Do you have any bars? Okay. Well, in Stranger Things, they don't have anything to pick up. And you want to know something? Let's get back to X-Files for a second. The phones were a little bit longer than this and about 5 or 6 times as thick. But you want to know something? Back then, Mulder had great service, and I don't know who he had, but wherever he was, that cell phone would freaking work.
It's like gas station Wi-Fi. That's what it is.
Gas station Wi-Fi back then, and the stuff that they could do with the computers back in 1995, were great. Like, even better than what what's her name does in Criminal Minds now, like the hacker chick. Oh yeah, how many people have MasterCard in this neighborhood? We've got 25,000 people. Can we narrow down that search? Yeah, how many of them drive a white Ford Bronco? O.J. Simpson, he's our man. Let's go get him. The way that show goes. But yeah, this show is got that charm, that 80s charm. You hear the 80s music playing in the background, and it's always great music, and it's always the right song for the mood.
And then I'm a huge fan of the old style synthesizer, and the fact that the score is basically done on a old school synthesizer just gives me freaking chills. I mean, I love the opening theme, and I love the that type of synthesized background music. It absolutely fit this TV series, Netflix series, perfectly. And I got to give props also to David Harbour, who played the sheriff. I loved the progression of his character from being the washed out alcoholic kind of guy who was miserable, which we find out in flashbacks has to do with what happened to his family, and turns into one of the I still think he's one of the most badass characters in the show also, because he has no fear when he goes into the unknown and just does his job, and I think it's he's willing to go undercover when he needs to. He's willing to beat people up and shoot them, and it's fantastic, and I loved his progression of his character. The one thing that drove me a little crazy, and it's just a little minor, to use I guess a Kelly Tool word, quibble, is
Minors? Did it have anything to do with the kids?
yeah, it has to do with the kids a bit. Well, that kind of.
So it was a minor quibble.
Oh, yay! Boo! Live boo to Tony Solo right now.
Well, you're the one who said it was a minor quibble.
It was a minor quibble, yes. It was my fault too. But with the fact that you had, Will disappeared, presumed dead in the ground now, and Barb has disappeared and run away, and there have been other people who have been missing, and there's all kinds of weird stuff going on. Don't you think the parents might be a little concerned that their kids are out running around? Look, I can understand with Jonathan because his mom is, going crazy with what's going on with the lights lately, so she's not as worried about him. Plus, he's older. But the fact is, you've got it's the cute chick who's the brother of Mike. Who's dating the chick is dating Steve. I keep forgetting her name. The main character chick. Her mom is freaked out because you've got Mike out running around, the 11-year-old, and then you've got his sister running around, at night and possibly sleeping with people, and they don't even seem to be worried. And the whole thing about Barb, Barb running away, her parents don't even care. It's just like, what the hell was. What? Yeah, but that might just be because I'm a parent, and it wouldn't be conducive for them to try to keep finding their children, I guess. But I don't know.
Nancy,
yes.
Whatchamacallit? You see, one of the things that I realized by watching that show was that kids, like when I was growing up, I think we had a little bit more freedom. And
okay,
when when I say that, I mean, and now back when I was growing up, there was murderers and hippies and drug addicts all over the place. But, my parents didn't know where I was every second of the day. But I had to be home at a certain time for dinner. Then after dinner, depending on what time of year it was, I mean, once you came in for dinner, if it was a school night, that was it. You didn't go back out, unless it was a Friday, or a Saturday, potentially. But when you were leaving the house, where were you going? I'm going to Steve's house. I'm going to Frank's house. We're going to hang out on the corner. Okay. And then you'd get instructions. Okay. Be home by this time. And you were home by that time, if your mother said, be home by that time, and hey, I could go to any payphone. Okay, kids. So a payphone was a telephone that used to be on the corner that you would actually put a dime in when I was a kid, and you would dial a number, and your parents would answer the phone, and if they didn't, you just hang up, and your money would come back out. There was actually this stuff called money, like coins and bills, and that we used to use back in the day when I was growing up. And, now there is an almost constant conversation between us and our kids. Where are you? What are you doing? Okay. Like, Mom, I farted. That's gross. Mom, I farted again. That's even gross. Maybe you should go to the bathroom. But I mean, like, you're in constant contact with your kids. And the thing is, besides being in and I say this all the time, put down your goddamn phones. Okay? If you're in a room with your friends, put down your phone. I'm picking up my phone constantly now. Why? Because I'm getting tweeted. But my little girl, today is her first day at her new job. She's working, and I probably am going to have to go pick her up probably around 10:30. So every time my phone beeps, I am picking it up because I am expecting a text that says, I'm ready. She's working less than a mile away from home. So I will go get her and then bring her back home. But other than that, usually I turn my phone off. I turn off my notifications, and I just look at Twitter on my computer. These kids, when watching Stranger Things, to get back to the show, especially, what was the name of you see, because she's not here, because I guess she wasn't good enough for them to put up on the Stranger Things cast by Google. I'm going to have to go to IMDb. But the one who got killed, Nancy's friend who got killed.
Barb.
So Barb gets killed, and Barb was a driver. And, Barb didn't come home because, they did the old I'm sleeping at your house, you're sleeping at my house deal, So the mom wasn't expecting her to be home, and it's all because why? Because, hey, I trust my kids. I know my kid is going to be at her friend's house, and I know if I want to, I could go there and show up and say, I'm outside, you're coming home now. And if my kid ain't there, she's grounded for life, or I'm going to toss her into a wood chipper. And they know this. So they're always where they're supposed to be.
That's fair. I mean, what was that? Laura said the same thing. I didn't even really think about that. I guess it made it more realistic, obviously, because it was the same way. I grew up in the 80s. And yeah, during the summer, normally we'd play all day, and in the neighborhood. And my folks were either working or they were at home. They didn't care. And when they would call, dinner time, scream, they'd come out the door and they'd scream, dinner, and you'd have to come riding back and eat your dinner. And then during the summer, usually we'd be able to go back outside, play a little bit more in the dark, or we would hang out on our porches because we had porches, stuff like that. So, yeah, okay, that makes a little bit more sense. I just thought, with the heightened awareness of people dying and disappearing, I figured. But I guess in the end, it makes sense because, all right, he's dead. He died because he fell into the quarry. So, all right, that's not a problem. And then Barb, the story about Barb was she ran away. Okay, nothing happened to her. She ran away. So there is no reason, I guess, for them to be worried that her kids are. So, okay, so I guess the minor quibble isn't really a quibble anymore now that's been.
Well, I'm not trying to stress your quibble, but
no, it's the truth, though. I didn't even really think about that till, I just got so ensconced with it that they got the period so perfect. I mean, there is nothing that I could see in the 8 episodes that took me out saying, they're filming it in 2016. It seemed absolutely like it was filmed in the 1980s. The vehicles, the stores, the way people talked and acted, stuff like that. But at the same time, there really was like, no, this is the 1980s. Yes, you had the rotary phones, and yes, you had the weird cars.
They didn't shove it in your face, but it was there, and it like when things popped up, it was like, oh shit, it's a rotary phone. But they sometimes when they try and do, and I'm going to use the words period piece, they try and put certain things out there very prominently, and it wasn't so with it. I shouldn't say it wasn't so. It isn't so with this show. I have no experience because I grew up in Brooklyn. I grew up in New York City, so I can only tell you what it's like to grow up in a city back in the 80s, and the deal was, and I've said this before, air conditioning killed the community, because when I was a kid, during the summertime, nobody had air conditioning. Everybody had fans. I mean, 1 or 2 people may have had a small unit in your window, but for the most part, during the summertime, everybody was out in the street. People would set up chairs, the kids would be playing, the old people be sitting outside BSing, and if my parents weren't downstairs with the collective, they were upstairs watching TV, and they'd be out the window, and every 10 or 15 minutes, like if I looked up, I could see my dad with his head out the window looking around, making sure where I was. So it's not like they weren't diligent or whatever, but there was that I would say trust.
Mm-hmm.
But now, I mean, my kids are growing up in a totally different situation. I don't have the option of looking out my window and seeing my kids. Now it's, play dates, and, well, they're not play dates anymore, but it used to be.
They are for us. Yeah, no, they are for us right now.
Right.
I've got a 10 and a 7-year-old, so yeah.
And when they get older, we're going to hang out, and it's the same deal. You'll be taking one kid one way, and Dawn might be taking the other kid the other way, and who's sleeping over there, who's coming over here for dinner, and all of that stuff. But you see, that's what my kids know, and I never knew. Like, we didn't have that when I was a kid, where you had to actually get in a car and drive somewhere to get to a friend's house. I walked to school because I just had to walk up to the corner. You know what I mean? Where, most people grew up in an area where they had to get on a bus to get to school. So my perspective is a little bit different, but I mean, all of that stuff, when you put it all together, said to me, yeah, look at, they don't have to do that. Like I said, oh, I've got no SIM. And there was ample opportunity for them to do that when they were near the facility for some kind of interference to happen, when they're out in the woods for them not to have communications. But the pace of life, you could see how slow it was, how much slower information passed around as opposed to now where, one of the political candidates farts and there's already a rebuttal ad on TV about it. You know what I mean? No, I did not fart. You did not see them waving that fart away. Was that fart classified? No, there were no classified farts here.
Classified Farts, great band name.
The Classified Farts. Frontman, Scott McDonald. Why? Because all his farts should be classified as deadly.
Deadly. Yeah.
My mom was so strict, I never went anywhere alone. It's hard to watch those kids with no supervision.
Okay.
I hung out on the stoop in the summer. You see, Midgie girl, Lee knows. She hung out on the stoop. That's what people did. They sat on the stoop outside.
I don't think Myrna likes me because she's not tagging me on anything. That's all right.
Yeah, I know. It's just me and Scotty. Scotty's only 2 episodes in, so don't give up. He's only seen he hasn't seen Rubik's Cube yet. I don't think the Rubik's Cube came out until later in the 80s.
Yeah, I don't think you're not gonna see one, Scotty, not this time. But yeah, it's because of the time frame. Yes.
Yeah, I think. I don't know if we know exactly what year it is, but I don't think the Rubik's Cube was the Rubik's Cube like 88 or 89.
I think it was like closer to like the 86, 85, 86. I thought it was a little bit more like that.
Oh, it was invented in 1974.
Oh. When did it go big? Oh, well. Well, they didn't really need Rubik's Cubes. They had Dungeons and Dragons, so, that was what they had.
Yes, that's what they had. And so I'm really excited that Scotty's getting on. There's another show called Winston something or other that Doug Close has recommended. Oh man, I know what I have to recommend now. There's another show that I watched after that, and it might be in your recommended. If you watch that, this may have popped up. And what is okay? Dun, 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 dun. The name of the show is Between. Between. It's also on Netflix. Okay. I'm gonna say it's not as good as I'm gonna recommend it. It's not as good as Stranger Things. There's 2 seasons. I don't know if they're gonna do a third. They don't have to do a third. But it is an interesting. To me, it was a little bit reminiscent of something like The 100. Okay. And the premise to this show is that everybody in this one particular town, once they reach the age of 21, they die.
Oh, yeah, so, that did pop up on my Netflix suggestions, yes. Mm-hmm.
So it was there, and I was like, there's 2 seasons. I'll give one or 2 shows a peek, and I'll see if it catches me. And it was there was some characters I did not like, and some changes and turns that the show, I was like, wow, that was an odd turn. But when it gets to the end, it ended up like I was satisfied with the way it came to an end at the end of the second season. And again, when the first season ended, they didn't finish the story. The story is finished after 2 seasons, but it's open-ended enough where they can go into a third, and you would be you might be acceptable, or that's not the right word. Anyway, you'd go for it. Like if I found out that they came out with season 3, I'd go in and dive, because the couple of characters that they would probably be focusing on, I like them enough to continue with it. It's a pretty decent show. Again, I'm not going to recommend it as highly as Stranger Things.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, if you're looking for something and you don't know what, like I said earlier, right now I'm in the middle of X-Files. So when I get to the end of the X-Files, which will probably be sometime next year, January, because I'm on a good night, I'm watching 2 episodes. Once the winter comes and it gets a little cold and Sci-Fi doesn't throw anything on Saturday nights, I know Doctor Who is coming back soon, I hope. And Fridays are going to be Z Nation-y in a couple of weeks. So we've got that coming up. But
Next Friday. It's next Friday. They're doing the
yes.
The 2-hour like prequel movie or something like that. I saw David Latt said something about it being it's not going to be a continuation of the second season, but it's going to be more of a kind of a lead into the third, but it taking place at a different time, and then the third season will start after that and continue with how it ended after the second season. So I'm not exactly sure what this 2-hour movie is really about. The only problem with that is on at 8 o'clock, so that's kitty bedtime, so I'm going to have to record that and watch that, but I definitely will, because last season of Z Nation was fantastic. And real quick, Myrna, I've watched about the first 4 or 5 episodes of Daredevil, the first season. I liked them. I just haven't had a chance to get back to them yet. Each one's going to be a little bit different. Jessica Jones is a little bit different than Daredevil, and then Luke Cage, which comes out at the end of September, is going to be different also. So bear with it. Not everybody likes the same things. So, but yeah, so Z Nation's coming back. I'm excited about that. So
Yeah, so I just pulled it up and I'm trying to see if maybe I should not have gone to Sci-Fi. But dun, dun, dun.
But next Friday, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, since I was on the Sci-Fi, for some reason this thing is just a little bit slow tonight. Oh, I understand why it's screwed up, because I spelled Z Nation totally wrong. Let me see if I can pull up the Sci-Fi schedule and see if we've got any movies coming up, because I haven't been checking.
Because we probably haven't. They probably don't.
They probably don't. Dun, dun, dun. And while this is percolating, so we might revisit Stranger Things again on the next snooze, because I know there's going to be Scott's going to be finished with it, and then we could, I mean,
there's a lot of spoilery stuff I want to talk about, but we can't.
I don't want to spoil it too bad.
I know. But a theory I have about 11, which I've sort of seen a little bit around in certain areas, but that's besides the point.
Yeah. So let's see. I love that whenever I hit the schedule, the first thing that pops up is like the 6:30 a.m. and it's the first up until 8 o'clock, it's all infomercials, like the best pressure cooker ever. God damn it! And only 4 easy payments of $199,000 each. Okay, so next Saturday there's absolutely nothing on, because what is Sci-Fi doing? It looks like an Indiana Jones marathon. At 6:49, Raiders of the Lost Ark comes on. And then at 9:24, go fuck yourself, Sci-Fi. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Give me a freaking break. So let's move ahead to the 17th.
Yes.
And see if there's anything on. And while we're waiting for that to happen, I wonder what infomercials they're going to have. Oh, wow. paid programming. It's not scheduled yet. And then, so from 6 to 8 is paid programming, not scheduled. So at 9 o'clock, it's Cabin in the Woods, Starship Troopers, Hulk is at 2 o'clock, Robin Hood at 5.
The Kevin
7.
Costner one?
Oh, no. Robin Hood, Russell Crowe.
Oh, that one. Okay.
And then they're doing Deep Impact at 8 o'clock. So for those James Bond fans out there, you can watch James Bond, which I have no idea why Sci-Fi thinks that James Bond, you know,
must be his toys.
It's his gadgets.
He has, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's as far ahead as Sci-Fi lets you go because their schedule online ends at the 21st because, you know, that's where it ends on their website. So, just let me check.
Don't forget Knife Show Cutlery Corner. Scott McDonald.
Yeah. Well, you see, Scott's got this thing about knives. Like, you know, there's when he dies, he's leaving me his knives. I don't know why. But yeah, so it looks like there's nothing coming up on Sci-Fi on the Saturday nights. I don't know. Oh, damn it. Let me go back to that website. Let me look. Let's go back. Let's go to next Friday, September 16th, which is the Z Nation thingy.
Yeah.
And let's read a synopsis online of what this says it's going to be. Oh, wow. It's turning into the CSI channel.
Really?
Because they're doing, yeah, on Friday it's CSI. All day long. Are they going to change the name to Sci-Fi? So, I mean the CSI, Blair Witch at 6, and at 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock, people, so it's not 9. So I guess Killjoys is coming on at 10. Oh, no, Dark Matter. No Mercy, a new enemy presents new problems for the heroes in the Season 3 premiere. So...
Okay, I guess it is. For what David Latt was saying when I follow him on Twitter, he was like saying, oh, it's going to start with a movie that I thought he said was not going to be connected to the third season, but is going to give a little bit of background of what's going to be happening, and then the actual beginning of the season is going to be the week after. But, you know, 2 hours.
Unless it's just going to focus, unless it's going to be like a Rise of the Governor type thing where we see the enemy and it's just the enemy and we don't see our heroes until the end of the episode doing something, which is quite possible. What they're going to do, what they think they're going to do. But, hey.
Well, regardless, we're going to watch it anyway, so...
So Laura's saying they're going to change the name of the channel to CSI-Fi, which is...
Sci-Fiance!
Sci-Fiance. Which is something that Dawn came up with, or conglomeration of me, Dawn, and Dylan came up with Sci-Fiance a couple of weeks ago. Actually, it was during Shark Week with one of the tweets for one of the shows. I think it was
the one
Sharks.
I think it was the one you hated, the World of Sharks or Shark World or something like that, whatever it was. Planet of the Sharks.
Planet of the Sharks. It was either Planet of the Sharks or... Oh, yes, it was because that lady went on that long narrative speech, Shakespearean rant, diatribe, whatever you want to call it. That was really fucking shitty. And I say that in 100% sincerity, that it was, you know, yeah, and you can tell that it was a, I love the company, but it was definitely an asylum movie because, you know, hey, global warming is coming. It's happening right now, and sea levels are going to rise 60 feet in the next 10 minutes. And I'll still be, well, I'm down in the basement. I'm 90 feet above sea levels, but I'm down in the basement, so I'd be 20 feet above sea level down here. But if I went upstairs, I'd be 30 feet above sea level. So, like I said before, bring on global warming. I will have beachfront property. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I actually, before I came on, I think I tweeted a map that someone put as like, this is what happened. This is what will happen if, the ice caps melt, and it shows, water. And it's like, here's Washington, D.C. completely covered in water, or whatever. So.
Well, yeah, Washington, D.C. is like almost a swamp anyway, like where they built it. But now I'm going to have to go into your timeline. I'm going to have to find out.
I'll see if I can find it and retweet it. Or maybe it was on Facebook. I have to. It might have been Facebook.
Yeah, if it was on
Facebook. Yeah, it probably was Facebook. So yeah, it was Facebook. It's not Twitter. Sorry, man.
Yeah. Is there any way that you can retweet that, like tweet it over from?
I can try. I can. I'll look into a little bit. So yeah, I don't see it here. So I'll look into a little bit and see if I can get it to you. It's actually pretty fascinating. So
I've actually seen, like, there was a website that you can go to, and there was actually a progression, and they'd show you. And like I said, like, I have heard, and I don't know how true it is, but there is the potential of sea levels to rise 60 feet worldwide if we lost, the polar ice cap and all of the ice that was down in Antarctica. Because, believe it or not, I believe there is some actual land down in Antarctica, but there's nothing up at the top. The North Pole is completely, it's all water. Yeah. So anything that's up there is just ice. And, like I said, hey, 60 feet. If it's going to do that, I'll take the apocalyptic type rise in sea level where it happens like within a couple of days, and everything, like, nobody has a chance to build any kind of walls or dikes. Wouldn't it be interesting to see like a place like New York City, Manhattan, with a 60-foot wall that they'd have to build around it to keep it dry? That would be a great feat of engineering.
Yes. Maybe we will. Who knows? But yeah, so in the end, everybody go see Stranger Things. It is only 8 episodes. They go by real quick. They're all different lengths, and that's the one cool thing. I think I might have already know this, but every time you start one, at the bottom you see how long the episode's going to be. They show you the progression. So the one was like 40 minutes, one was 54 minutes, one was like 47 minutes. So they're all different times. So we watched it. Let's see, we started it last Friday, I guess. Yeah, I guess last Friday. I guess we started, and we watched like 3 on Friday, and then like 1 Saturday, 1 Sunday. Like one Monday, 2 Tuesday, and 1 Wednesday to finish it up, something like that. So
yeah, that's the one weird thing about Stranger Things and some of these Netflix, or I guess I'm going to assume that Hulu might be the same. The episode is as long as it needs to be, no longer, no shorter, and to be a good writer, I mean, compare and contrast that with a regular network TV show where they're all going to time out to be about 44 minutes, between 42 and 44 minutes in length, which is when you have somebody that's a good writer, they know how to pace it so it doesn't, like, they don't like all of a sudden say, "Ooh, we're running out of time, let's like shove some stuff down your throat." I think in episode 6 they had that one problem there with that,
right, that little aspect that you had a problem with. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I mean, having said that, I mean, 8 episodes and all varying lengths. I think there's one that's almost an hour, maybe like
yeah, I don't. The final episode was 54 minutes, so there was that one. There's probably another one that was closer to that as well. So maybe the first episode might have been close to that too.
But my minor quibble was actually a minor quibble, and Dylan's had a valid quibble, because I mean, from the one side, like, if you're looking at it with today's eyes, like, why aren't these parents on top of their kids? And they were on top of their kids for the, you got to remember, back in the early 80s and in the 70s, your parents, you went to a party with your parents, and sometimes the host would hand your dad a beer and say, "Here's one for the road," and he'd drink that while he was on the way home, and you're sitting in the back seat with siblings, and none of you guys were belted in, and by today's standards, that was murderous, but it was commonplace, and the funny thing was, maybe there weren't as many cars on the road, but people weren't having smashed up derbies the way you might think. So, and that's that. So, as usual, Dylan, we're at the end.
Yes.
I should do. Okay, before we go on, I got a tweet from Erna that says Tony should do a Snark Alex sci-fi channel. What do you mean, Myrna? Like I should start my own cable channel? Is that what you're saying I should do? And what, if that's what you think I should do, what would be on this Snark Alex sci-fi channel?
Oh, I'd love that shit. I come up with all kinds of stuff. I get movies, TV shows. Yeah, I'd be writing the shit out of that. Hiring cool people. Yeah, we should do it. We should.
Let's see what she says. And while she's doing that, I'm going to be looking at the calendar, okay? So, Myrna, what did you actually mean by that?
I still like my idea. I have a great idea for a sci-fi film called Mad Cow Disease. And it would be, there's some cow tipping happening. All of a sudden, the mad cow disease happens, and the cows start attacking people, and the people turn into zombies. I think that'd be awesome.
You want to know something? I would like to get behind that. And wouldn't it be interesting if we found out that the origin of the mad cow disease was because Mike and a couple of his buddies went out to the farm and they molested the cows.
There you go.
In unspeakable ways.
And actually, you know what? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, and that's the origin of the mad cow.
And I had a weird idea also. I had come up with some sort of, I guess it was similar to the end of the world, but I thought that we could do like Snark Stock Apocalypse, where we're doing a Snark Stock event, and then the end of the world happens, and we have to survive, but we use our knowledge of sci-fi and our own personal stuff that we have, to escape. But it's a lot like End of the World. I know that now, but I mean, I think that'd be pretty fun to see.
So there is a book that I read that uses an extremely similar premise, and the name of the book, and I will tell you who the author is in a second.
There's no good original ideas anymore. Then.
The name of the book is that it? There it is. And okay, so when I tell you the name of the book and I tell you who the two authors are, you should, if you're into sci-fi, should know them. Footfall by Larry Niven and Jerry Pournelle. Okay, so Larry Niven has been around for a long time.
Yes.
He wrote the Ringworld books, and Jerry Pournelle has also written a lot of high sci-fi fantasy. And the premise of the book is we are being attacked by aliens, and the aliens, to a certain extent, are reminiscent of our own elephants. They are similar in appearance. They have two trunks instead of one, and that's where the similarity ends. And the reason that the book is called Footfall is their way of attacking us is by taking asteroids and steering them and flinging them at Earth. And someone gets the bright idea of getting a group of sci-fi writers together and using them as a think tank to come up with ways of fighting back. And they're actually pretty successful at it. It's a really good book. It's really interesting. So if you like sci-fi and you're looking for, and this came out, I'm going to say this was around the same time, around mid 80s.
Okay.
But yeah, and I know, because I read the book as opposed to reading it on my iPad. I'm actually since I mentioned that, and before I go back to see if Myrna answered me,
She did.
May 12th, 1985.
Okay.
So right in the middle of this. I am reading a book that I believe was published within the last 7 or 8 years, called 1 Second After. And it's something that I know about, something everybody may have heard about, but it's really, really scary. It's called EMP, and it's 1 second after. And EMP is electromagnetic pulse. It's one of the side effects, as you were, of a nuclear explosion. It sends out a pulse that disrupts anything electronic, not electrical per se, but it's got to have solid state components. So this would stop working, the computer. The
Bank
power
machines.
grid.
Yeah, bank machines.
Every modern car that has that does not have a carburetor has an electronic ignition system. Okay, that would stop working. Fuel injectors. That's all controlled with electronics now. So everything stops working. Okay, and if you follow the progression in thought of there's no power and nothing, what happens? And that's what this book is about. And it's a book about survival, like what happens after. I think there may be 3 books. I have 2 of them. I've got 1 Second After, and then 1 Year After is the follow up. And I don't know if there's a third. It's scarier when you think about the implications and when you read the book of what is happening, and what could happen. And you can also get an EMP from a solar flare. So it's not just worrying about nukes. A solar flare fries the satellites and can fry half of the electronics. And I'm thinking, because if you happen to be on the night side when the solar flare reaches the Earth, and if it subsides before we turn around and get it, it could nuke China, but not us. So we get back to the Myrna thing now.
There was an interesting article in Yahoo today about a humongous solar flare that happened in 1859. And they're saying that if such a thing happened nowadays, it would be pretty much what you were talking about. But back in 1859, the worst things that happened was some people who were using the telegraph got shocked. But then the skies, it was like Aurora Borealis, the skies were all different kinds of colors because it was basically a solar flare. They're saying, if that hit nowadays, the astronauts on board the International Space Station might be in a little bit of trouble also. So,
yeah, they'd be in a bit of trouble because they'd be in a tin can that was just spinning, and eventually, I think they would die first before it came back to Earth. But yeah, they'd be basically in a tin can, not in a space station, because constantly firing rockets to keep that thing positioned the right way. I mean, not constantly, but every other day, every couple of days, whatever they do. So Myrna wants us to, yes, I should. All great sci-fi movies and shows give newbies a chance to write. That's great. So, and I'm going to be able to do this on TV.
I think it's a damn good idea. It's just a matter of how
it's a great idea. And you want to know something? I think I may have said this before, and I don't like to talk about politics, but you want to know who would make a great president, as far as I'm concerned?
Who's that?
And listen to my words, as far as I'm concerned, me.
Okay.
Why? Because I agree with myself 100% of the time. I'm always freaking right. Okay? I don't care, hey, let's bomb the crap out of them. That sounds like a great idea to me. Let's turn that desert to glass, because you want to know something? If we're fighting over that sand, let's turn it to glass. And guess what? Now we've got nothing to fight over anymore.
There you go.
Works for me. Now, that might be a little bit too far for you, but I think it's the right thing to do. I agree with me 100% of the time. I'd love to have my own TV channel. Why? Because I'd only put crap on there that I'd love to watch. You guys might like it too, but you're not going to like everything. The only problem with it is if I had enough money to start my own cable channel,
you wouldn't.
I'd be fucking rich.
Exactly.
And I just have a really good DVD collection. And I would just watch what I wanted to watch, kind of like what I do now. I sit in the family room, everybody else watches what they want to watch, and I sit there and I watch X-Files.
Actually, you want to hear something really funny? I've always been asked by not just Dawn, but by a lot of people. I have a ton of movies. I've got a ton of CDs. I got a ton of comic books, and everyone's like, "Why do you save those? Why do you keep those?" And one of my responses I always like to respond to is like, if the world ends at some point, and I'm one of the survivors, and there's still survivors out there, people are going to want the entertainment. So if I can figure out a way to get electronics working or whatever, get a DVD player working or whatever, I got a whole collection of movies that we can watch, you know, and spread the word to everybody, or comic books that people could read, or music they could listen to, you know. If something bad happens, I could start my own like station, you know, using, you know, the equipment, or go to an abandoned TV studio and get some people to help figure out how to get it started up, and then send the stuff out and you know, save the day. That's what I always told them.
which is one of the problems that we have now is there's a lot of stuff that's electronic, and in the scenario with
it wouldn't work. Yeah, mm-hmm.
Nothing would work, and your comic books would be greatly cherished and sought after, because it would be, you know, hard copies of books. You know, books would be the number one method of entertainment. So where I'm at in this book is they have gotten a phone to work, and it's one of those they found in an antique shop, you know, and they're trying to, you know, they found in someone's basement an old style switchboard. So there's two towns that are kind of very close together, and they're working together. So they have like an alliance. So they've got communication between the 2 points now, which is phenomenal. And so it's an interesting book, and it's almost book time now. So
yep.
We'll see how that pans out. And I was looking at the calendar, and my calendar's gone. So we've got. So the first Thursday next month is the 6th, and then the second Thursday is the 13th. So I am trying to, let's say.
All right, when does Walking Dead come back? Is it the 23rd?
I think. Well, let's see. We're 3 in. Let me go back to the calendar, because I believe The Walking Dead is coming back directly after Fear ends. So this Sunday, the 11th, is number 4, 5, 6. The 6th episode is the 25th. October 2nd, October 9, the 16th. It's either the 16th or the 23rd. And I actually...
I can look it up real quick. If it is the 16th, we should probably do the show on the 13th, so we can have like a Walking Dead preview. Or October 23rd is what it's saying now. So
yeah,
actually, so now it's going to be a couple weeks after that. So it's actually be closer to the end of October. So season 7, episode 7.1, 23rd of October. Yep. So that's when.
Okay, so let's do something that we've never done before, and let's look ahead to November. So November 3rd. So if we do Thursday the 6th, then that is exactly 4 weeks to the 3rd. So maybe that's what we'll do, because that way, by the time we get to the 3rd, we'll have 2 episodes in. So that would be, a quarter of the first half of
And then we can discuss the election. Yes, which is going to be the next Tuesday after. No, we won't. Yeah, so we'll do October 6th is good. That'll work, I think.
So, speaking about the election, and I was watching. They had a little thingy on TV last night, and I thought it was really interesting because they had the Democrat nominee up there for 27 minutes exactly, and then they had a 3-minute break, and then they had the Republican dude out there, and then they had a 3-minute break, and I didn't watch after that because Matt Lauer, who I really can't stand for the most part, was doing some sort of a wrap-up. But the commercials, when they took the commercial breaks, were like really interesting. It was heartburn, and I can't remember my tweets, but it had, like, you can tell, like, the commercials were actually aimed at, Helena and John McGivney, let's say, like the older folks among us, the Pepto and the this and the that, and
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's 11 o'clock. We got to end this. But Myrna,
Yeah.
I need to do 2 shows. What do you mean I need to do 2 shows? I already do enough shows. Okay, 1 a month is more than enough. Yes, I know I wouldn't make a good president. I'd make a great president. I would be the greatest president. Nobody would be greater than me, and it would be awesome because I'm phenomenal. Okay? Nobody could be better than me. And I asked you about Van Helsing. I asked you if it was going to be on Sunday. If it's not going to be on Sunday, and I don't know. I don't know when it's going to be on. I think I may have seen a commercial. Is Van Helsing? Are they doing the same thing with Van Helsing? They're making her a girl too.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be similar to like the Buffys and the Winona Earps and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So.
Which is, I don't have a problem with it, but am I going to watch it? Maybe not.
All right, so officially it'll be October 6th will be the official next SNEWS, but as Tony alluded to a little bit earlier in the show, we may be doing another one next week just to test out a few things also. For those who might not know, this is the last Google Plus Hangout that Tony and I will be doing because as of September 12th, Google Plus is no longer doing Hangouts. They are shifting over to YouTube Live. So Tony looked at it a little bit, but I need to take a look at it too. So we're going to see how it works and see what we can do, and then we might just test it out on next week to see if it's a feasible thing to do, if it's easy to handle and stuff like that. So look for something maybe possibly coming up next week. Right, Tony?
Yes. So that's it for now. And so good night. And I will see you soon. And I'll send you an email Wednesday or before, and we'll figure that out.
Okay. Live long and prosper.
Yes. Good night, everyone.